A Sign of Affection is one of the romance anime of all time. On the surface, it's about a deaf college girl who falls in love with a big lip boy. And in depth, I'm afraid there's not much more to it. There are plenty of things that don't click with me, and I'm pretty sure you guys know what I'm about to talk about as well. The main character of the show, Yuki, has been deaf since birth, and even though she can hear sounds with hearing aids, she can't really tell them apart and hears everything as a big chunk of cluttered noises. One day she's taking the train where she gets approached by a foreigner asking her for directions. Although she can read lips a little bit, but it's not a foolproof method. While being confused and awkwardly using sign language to tell him I can't help you, Mr. Big Lips, Itsumi, shows up to save the day. And here's where the weirdness starts. Big Lips has no sense of personal space. And honestly, I don't understand what's the deal with that. Does he interact with all the girls like that, or is he making an exception, which is even weirder? After a little bit of chit-chatting, as he's getting off the train, he just allows himself to pat her on the head. A complete stranger. The funny thing is that she actually mentions that he's staring at her like she's a living thing. But after this interaction, she's like, oh my god, he met a deaf person and wasn't perplexed and said something like, see you. And you can see that she's absolutely into him. I mean, okay, no judging. Maybe something stroked the connection and both of them felt the air and, all of a sudden it's okay for a stranger to pat your head. Completely fine. However, that's just the beginning of the creep fest. There are multiple scenes where Big Lips has to be considered a creep, but the anime makes him into this mysterious knight in the shining armor here to save Yuki and show her the wonders of the universe. For example, Itsumi works at this bar, right? Yuki and her friend also has a crush on Itsumi's friend, go to this bar to just hang out and meet with them. So she's looking at the menu, and to get her attention, Big Lips completely face palms Yuki and raises her head up. I don't know, man. This is like the second interaction, and this is what this guy is doing. It's already alarmingly strange. And that's pretty much how the story continues. Yuki is a pure innocent doll who seems to have found life only after Mr. Big Lips shows up. It's as if she was completely disconnected from the world and now she's starting to find the true meaning of life via Itsumi. Another great example is Yuki looking at Itsumi's photos from his travels to South Asia. And she's like, oh my god, I've never seen places like this before. I had no idea this existed. What is this place? Immediately, I'm like, what the actual And it is just a couple of pictures taken in a foreign country. I'm sure it could be a little bit exciting, but like, you didn't know this existed before? What? It's not like a mind-blowing first experience moment, for God's sake. The way that she acts makes you think that her brain froze in time when she was 10 and never progressed. I understand that she's deaf, but deaf people are just like any other people on this planet. I mean, without obviously being able to hear. For sure, it has its complexities. I'm not undermining that. But they don't act like kids like portrayed in this anime, right? That's exactly what I mean by her world spinning around Big Lips. Therefore, she lacks character. There's nothing about her that is only about her, other than she's deaf. Itsumi isn't any different either. His character makes the story feel double fake. He's like the ultimate final boss in romance anime. He's the most kind, considerate, and badass person that backpacks and travels all around the world just to find Yuki and protect her with his entire life. One of the most mind-boggling things that Itsumi says is, I haven't been tearing my eyes off her. I think it's because Yuki never heard an ugly word in her life. She's transparent. I hardly doubt that. She hasn't heard an ugly word. I mean, sure, she hasn't heard an ugly word, but she has social media, right? I mean, one scroll on Instagram Reels comment or, any Twitter post about anime does the job. All people start off as see-through containers. Not Hitler's, obviously. Human influence scratches and dirties and scrapes that container. I want to have an influence on Yuki. Yikes. I think of how I always want to be watching her. Her eyes, her expressions, they're all beautiful. Now I just don't look at her. When it comes to Yuki, I glaze at her in fascination. So my interpretation of this whole thing is that this guy is not looking for a real person. He likes Yuki because she's a blank page, and he wants to draw on that blank page. Anyone else can also be that blank page. It doesn't have to be Yuki. Yuki is not a personality to him. It's just a piece of marble that he likes to sculpt. He's looking at her like someone who needs to be influenced, which is a recipe for disaster. So bottom line is, my point of view of a Sign of Affection anime makes it look like it's absolutely degenerate. I feel like there's a totally missed opportunity here to turn this story into a psychological seinen murder scenario where the male character is just like a psychopath that is stalking Yuki and wants to like kidnap her and, I don't know, cut off her ear to add it into his collection or something. But we're just left with this creepy story which we're supposed to feel all bubbly and root for these two dolls with zero flaws to get together. Well, that's about it. This was Radical Edgy. Until next time.